Hey guys, what is up? It is Lovenji here, and welcome back to the final mission of official Populous content. As I've said before in a few of the other videos, we'll be moving on to a new game for the Monday and Friday series after this, another game from my childhood, and I'll tell you what it is at the end of this video. Anyway, this is mission 12, and it took me the most attempts of all the missions in this game. I found it quite difficult, but eventually found a way to make it work. So without further ado, let's get this underway. Okay guys, so welcome back to Populous the Beginning, and we're on mission 12, Natural Disaster. The gimmick of this mission is rather straightforward as far as the missions go. We have a base on the low ground. This low ground is going to periodically sink over time, and it's going to sink much quicker than you'd like it to, trust me. And we have to get to the Matak's high ground. Now, everything to the right of the reincarnation site does not sink, so put your important buildings there. So you can see the game is kind and gives you a whole bunch of huts, but then they will immediately sink into the ground. So despite there being lots of building in this, I'm not going to be speeding up any of this mission. It's the last of the Populous missions, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Populous instead. So, by now you've watched numerous videos of mine if you've reached it to this point, and you know how much I love this game. Populous for me, to this day, still hasn't really been rivaled by another real-time strategy in terms of what it's tried to do. Obviously there are games that are visually more beautiful, but when you're thinking about a game that is 1998, the game holds up well. It's still fun to play, it still offers its own challenges. The community for it is still alive and friendly, and the game is just different. It's not going to be another standard, I want to say Westwoodian, build your base, build your army, and that's kind of it. And it even takes a departure from games that try to do things slightly differently, like that are also well known, like Age of Empires. So I would recommend that everyone takes a moment of time to consider playing Populous for themselves, if they don't already do so. I know a lot of the people who have been tuning into my videos are already Populous players, and I'm thankful for their support. Really, you should absolutely consider giving the game a go, if you haven't already. So, turning our attention to the mission, we're getting a little notification, meaning we're being attacked. The Matak are going to destroy those huts. We don't particularly care on account of the fact that those huts are going to sink into the water anyway, so there's really no point wasting time defending those huts, or wasting manpower. Different to how I normally play these missions, you can also see I am immediately training troops. The first thing I did was build troop huts, and now I'm training them. It's probably the most important thing about this mission. The only safe ground from the road is currently owned by the Matak, so we actually have to challenge the Matak for their high ground. So there will be periods I'm being quiet, mostly to allow the mission to play out a little bit. However, what you're essentially doing with this mission is trying to grab as many braves as possible. Try to keep any construction you actually want to keep on the right hand side of the reincarnation site, obviously when we're facing the correct way. Hard to say the right hand side when you can rotate the camera like that, but you all know what I mean. Now we're just defending our main base from attack, and you may have noticed, it may not have come up before, but they can actually cancel our plans by jumping on them. I don't know why that's a mechanic, but it is. So, village hut plans can be cancelled by angry men jumping up and down on them. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't damage the ground like losing a building does, but it is annoying. So as I know these huts on the side are going to be kept, they're the ones that you would want to upgrade. But what we're essentially doing is we're taking our army and we are going on the offensive. And if I didn't mess this offensive up, the mission could be even quicker. But I do mess this up a little bit, but hey, that's half the fun of the challenge. So there is a guard tower on this part of the hill, and this part of the hill is the quietest part of the hill for the Matak. The Matak have an entire tribe on this high ground, so you have to be very, very careful. They'll only respond if you go over a sort of invisible threshold, or if you cast a spell on them. It's something you'll see me utilizing in the sort of the middle stages of the game while I'm trying to build my tribe up. But what I'm essentially trying to do is secure an amount of ground. I'm using a guard post to keep everyone rotating, and the Matak take advantage of this to actually attack me back. Go figure. Seeing that they're getting damaged, I pull back to my tribe to try and deal with the magical shielded followers, hoping that I can hold the high ground with my shaman. Magically shielded creatures are by far the worst thing in the world. Obviously, their natural counter to preachers is fire warriors. But magical shield makes it so that the preacher takes no damage from a fire warrior's attack. And so all of those fireballs being shot in are for nothing. It's a great way to completely make one unit worthless. As much as I love fire warriors, that's my major gripe with them, is any mission that contains magical shield. You then end up having to do this sort of stuff. From the content that I've watched, most multiplayer games, there you go, that's the correct English, play with spells like Magical Shield turned off, or behind a stonehead, so it's a defendable objective. And then if you're dealing with Magical Shield, then it's because you didn't pay attention and therefore it's your fault. Which I think is fair enough. So this is what I was saying, if you throw out a spell, you get some retaliatory damage, and I went flying after those Fire Warrior attacks. As you can see, the speed of being hit by a Fire Warrior is additive, and so each little strike adds to the momentum of the previous strike, and you can go pretty far. So I'm trying to secure a sort of a foothold that will not be harassed by Fire Warriors. And what I'm essentially going to be doing next is really straightforward in principle, but as you can probably tell from the length of the video, it's going to take us quite some time to actually succeed. So the Shaman is further into the base and she will just spam swarms. Of course, the high ground bonus, she's obviously getting that, and she's in a tower, so she's getting 2 range bonuses, which is why she can shoot from so far away. And this mission will, the majority of the fighting for this mission will take place on high ground. So my army's starting to thin out, which means I need to move to a more defensive strategy. But I catch a warrior with a preacher, which will help. And I'm still trying to rebuild the huts. Now you may have noticed the rate of the eroding has slowed down significantly. Which is what I was alluding to. These huts on this side are now perfectly safe. I've got a small little force to help defend my tribe. The Matak are going to continuously send people down that hill to try to deal with us. And we just have to do what we can to hold our tribe whilst attacking. This mission is very interesting from that perspective. It does make you fight on 2 fronts. It gets you very used to having to hold your own base whilst also fighting the Matak. So you're having to deal with being attacked almost constantly, but you know you're on a clock because of the eroding land, so you need to be pushing in and actually winning ground. What I should be doing now, I don't do it until slightly later, is using towers to push upwards. For some reason I had a preacher and a fire warrior tower. Stop saying tower. Training hut, and that causes an immediate cancel because we need that preacher. He's done good work for us in holding our tribe. But with our huts repaired, instead of trying to hold this high ground with towers, I'm actually... Oh, and there go those huts. I'm actually sort of crawling the huts towards the high ground, knowing that this side is going to be safe. There's nothing that alludes to you that one side is safer than the other. You kind of just have to play the mission and die a lot to find that out. I know many people have done this mission on the first try. I'm not one of them. This successful recording was about my 6th or 7th try. And that's from someone who has beaten the mission before. So this crawling of huts, what I should be doing is also making these huts manually upgrade, which is by gathering the trees and then bringing the wood directly to the base of the hut. It does make them upgrade just a touch quicker. Mostly because we're in a position where we have to... Well, we're stuck on land, essentially. And the small amount of land we have left is very precious to us, so it's better to try to squeeze large huts into a smaller space than cover that space in small huts and then worry about upgrading them later. Large huts produce braves significantly quicker if you lose them, which would give us a more solid flow of troops. But I'm getting my first tower up now, and what you're going to see is a good 5-10 minutes or so of epic turtling. Say epic turtling, I don't think turtling is ever epic, but that's exactly what I'm doing. So we're going to get a fire warrior in that tower, and immediately build the next tower. Oh yeah, you're going to be hearing a lot of that bell. Sorry. That's all I can say. I had to listen to it too while I was playing the mission. But what I can start doing now that I have the help of towers is I can start attacking the Matak in sort of waves, pulling their troops, because the AI is not particularly smart. You can start pulling their troops back into your towers, using your towers to actually defeat the army, and then push forward because they have less troops, and sort of repeat that cycle again and again and again until the Matak essentially run out of men. And once they've run out of men, they can't stop you pushing in and dealing a significant amount of damage. Fire warriors in towers are of course great. Those of you who watched the prison playthrough know how much I love fire warriors in towers. They're a fantastic tool to holding pieces of land, and in multiplayer they're pretty much mandatory. I don't think I've seen a single game where I haven't seen at least one fire warrior in a tower somewhere at some point in the game. They're a great way of just holding terrain, forcing the shaman to use mana early, and things like that. So as you can see, a very simple lightning onto their warrior training hut has made them unleash all manner of heck. They come charging forward really aggressively with what troops they have available to them, which is exactly what I was talking about with the baiting strategy. We're going to be able to bait the Matak forward. I'm not sure about that attack or what it represents, but it did happen. But as they are all braves, I'm not particularly worried about them. The advantage is we've reached the point now where the erode spell, or the natural disaster eroding, has actually severed that other connection to our tribe, meaning that we don't have to worry about protecting our sort of flank anymore, because that flank doesn't exist. So now we just have a consistent tribe, which we can slowly build up the hill like this. Getting a preacher in the tower just to both protect him, but also it draws out preachers. Preachers tend to focus other preachers the moment they start preaching, believe it or not. And that's going to help us separate and then destroy Matak armies when they choose to attack. When I think we're ready, we just take another pot shot at the training hut, and these preachers come charging forward. Preachers can preach to men in towers, That's a fun little thing that they can do, so you have to be careful. Thinking your men are in a tower, they are not safe from a preacher stood outside. He's got a really loud voice, you see. When he tells that story, he really commits to telling that story, and so, you know, people in towers can hear it. I don't know how long that bell's been going off for, but it's doing my head in a second time as I'm recording the voice over this. So, apologies again for that. And all I'm doing is I'm taking out that hut just so that I've got access to the wood. But of course, I hit them with a lightning spell, so that means they're going to attack me again. The AI is very retaliatory, and I actually do like it, because normally, those of you who have watched my other mission playthroughs have seen how the AI quote-unquote responds to the presence of a shaman. So the fact that they are actually being baited into this in a full-force response is more interesting. It's more threatening. One of my earlier playthroughs when I got to the hill, I didn't build the towers, and because I didn't build the towers, I actually kept lightninging them. Not sure that's the correct verb. Kept hitting them with lightning and dealing damage to their settlement, but through a war of attrition, every time they threw men at me, I had no defensive line. I was losing more men than I was killing, and I actually killed myself, essentially, not unlike the Dakinian fortress. So once again, another lightning pulls forward their patrol. We've got 4 preachers and a fire warrior trying to kill us, and that is really easily dealt with. So at this point, because no more land is eroding, we can start to look to make sure the huts are fully populated to actually increase the shaman's generation of mana, give her access to a couple of the more destructive spells so that she can deal a little bit more damage than just the occasional lightning. Because if we sit here waiting for lightnings all the time, it's going to take a very long time. You can sort of see the pattern that I'm going for here, this kind of rinse, repeat, poke, deal with the army, poke, deal with the army, poke, deal with the army. It's a very straightforward strategy. The AI, we're sort of exploiting the new responses of the AI as opposed to the old responses of the AI. We know that we can make them feed us their population negligently. We're also restricting their ability to train warriors. As you know, warriors are really the only men that can charge down fire warriors aggressively. So them not having warriors is, again, very good for us. And me being me, I find more places to squeeze huts in. Because it's me. Wouldn't be a video with me unless you see me trying to get a hut in instead of just playing around. Or as a matter of playing around instead of clearing the mission. You may have noticed, as part of the mission's challenges, it has taken away all the terraforming spells. We don't have land bridge, we don't have flatten. We don't even have a road, though I don't know why you would want a road. I suppose because they're on the high ground you could cause some real damage with it. But without land bridge or flatten, you could then permanently make the mission unwinnable. So, without the use of terraforming spells, it really does force the pressure of the sinking land onto your tribe. You can't just repair the land that sinks. And this mission's really fun for that concept because it's forcing us to fight. I've turned it into a campy mission anyway, but, you know, how often have you seen me train men and start a fight in the first 10 minutes of the mission? I don't do it all too often unless I'm rushing, and even then that's just Braves. So, annoying guard tower bells aside, we are making progress. We're starting to generate more mana than we're using, in the terms of we are basically getting more lightnings than we need when we're firing one off every now and then. And our huts are upgrading, which is increasing the maximum size of our tribe and our mana generation. So it is at this point you kind of know, if you can reach this point in the game, you know you're not at threat of being defeated. Aside from the little annoying poking attacks, the Matak will actually not attack you now. I don't know why, but there's no real further script to the Matak. So the ball is in our court to be aggressive with the Matak as much as possible. So, with this in mind, here come another Matak response, and all we do is just deal with it as we've done the others. And now I'm starting to lightning far more frequently. You can deal a wood stage of damage to a hut the moment the fires start to go out. That's when the building is ready to take another wave of damage, essentially, as you can see. Just like that. If you cast it any sooner, the building will not reignite, and therefore it won't take the wood stage of damage. It will still take the shake, so may disassemble from shaking. But now I have access to lightning, and I can do lightning far more frequently than I was previously. Oh, and about 20-something minutes in, I decide to show you the mission text. I click on it accidentally. Is what happens there. But you know. So our only real struggle now is that we don't have wood, which is why we're pushing forward. We're trying to secure those trees that the Matak Guard Tower currently have secured, and that gives us access to even more wood. So to do that, we're training up some followers. We're building up our army. I know it's weird seeing me play like that. This is really not mana efficient. Shouldn't be wasting lightnings on single preachers, especially when I've got my wall of guard towers that is otherwise impenetrable. It wouldn't be impenetrable if the enemy shaman ever actually attacked. We're taking advantage of the fact that whilst the army responds, the shaman never does. If the shaman responded, she could break 5 towers easily, especially with the access to the spells that the AI shaman actually has when you let her into your base. She can cause a lot of damage. The only problem is, she doesn't have a script that actually makes her go into your base once this point in the game is reached. Another fun little side effect of that is you can slowly whittle down their brave population, because they will continuously send braves. And we're using the game speed up function, because all I'm doing now is just whittling this down. And it means we're getting more done in less guard tower bells. And that's a measurement of time now. Bells until something. I'm coining it. So a bunch of idle braves just scream to be hit with lightning. And I'm going to go and try and secure me a stonehead. Does it work? Place your bets now. No. There's your answer. I assume it will work. I go out into the world map because I'm assuming it will work, and then I come back and I'm dead. So my tribe is pretty well established. I'm very satisfied with the size of it and the mana flow. So all that remains is to take the fight to the Matak. We've done a good 10 minutes of camping. And so I'm going to build some forward towers, forward huts. And my hope for these is that they will actually make the Matak be a bit more aggressive. Again, I'm still trying to continue the same strategy of wearing out the Matak. But I've got a small army of 17, little hit squad, and worst case scenario is we can always push up with that and just start a fight now, because 17 men earlier on in the game would have been a devastating loss, but we can afford to lose 17 men now. To that end, we're starting a fight. and the enemy shaman finally gets involved. Whilst I'm very annoyed at what happens here, losing control of an army to 4 swarms, it is beneficial. Men running in fear through swarms still count as your men, and therefore we actually got a good revealing of the Matak Bay. Oh yeah, by the way, there's Fog of War in this mission. Probably should have... You probably noticed yourself, but should have alluded to that. Yeah, we got a very good exploring of the Fog of War, and we can start to really see the Matak tribe's layout. It's really just that forward patrol that's making the alarm go off again and again and again. So if we can get up there and break that down, it'd be very helpful. But with the game speed up, my men are just dying constantly trying to build those huts. But we have a tornado. We have our first tornado. Some real devastation. So we had one warrior who refused to be preached, and he becomes a hero. Sort of. He doesn't last very long. Unfortunately, he gets into a duel with another warrior, and that is the end of him. But I'm just trying to push into the Matak base now. As you can see, because I'm actually proactively trying to push in, they are pushing back. And because I destroyed the warrior hut completely, they are now able to build warriors, because what this script will do is it will replace huts that it has lost. So because it has lost the warrior hut, instead of just having it damaged, which it was trying to repair, it's now gone, okay, I need to build that somewhere else. Which is exactly what it's gone and done. But we have spells to use, and we are going to use them. So I'm trying to get to the training huts, if it wasn't apparently obvious. There are fire warriors who do not want me doing that. Again, spell combination. If you lightning a building and then tornado it, most of the time that guarantees the destruction of the building. Say most of the time. This game is very interesting in that you can only ever promise something will happen most of the time. Because sometimes the game has other thoughts. And it simply doesn't. And that's the easiest way to explain it, is the game just simply doesn't. So, because the enemy shaman hasn't been getting involved in very much conflict, she had a whole swathe of mana that I am now wasting. Because I don't notice. Me notices recording this, but the player did not notice. So I probably could have got a couple of tornadoes out of that. But we are going to pray at the Stonehead. I've said this again and again and again. The evil preacher sounds so cool. So they're about to build a training hut. Instead of cancelling the plan, if you wait for them to do that, stand around and create the one wood stage, you can then zap it immediately to... Basically what it does is it puts damaged ground down. This is a terrible firestorm. You should always firestorm 4 huts if you can. It causes the most damage. But in my greed and my desire to just do damage, I just throw it out immediately. But at this point, we're just winding out the mission. The remainder of this video is just going to be us killing the Matak. So I'm going to be quiet, as it is the final part of Populous, the beginning. And just let you watch the demise. The outro for this video is going to be slightly longer, and will feature a couple of shoutouts to other players, and I'll also talk a little bit about what game we'll be moving on to next, as well as some of my plans, Populous related, for the channel. So, without ado, enjoy the rest of the video. Well guys, that concludes it for official Populous content. I will be finishing off the Tikal's journey of course, but on Friday I'll be uploading the next game planned for the series. Now I am planning to return to Populous at a later date. There's way more custom single player content to go through, and as I've referred to multiplayer so much, I might actually see if I can grab a player to beat me repeatedly whilst explaining some of the differences between single player and multiplayer. But that'll take a few months as I'm currently mid-house move. If you want channels dedicated to Populous, I recommend The Beginning, who, whilst he doesn't make videos anymore, has hours of entertaining content to watch. Alternatively, I'd recommend Populous 3 Tutorials, who is still making content to this day. They're a very friendly player and well worth checking out. As always, don't take my word for it. You can get your own copy of Populous, join the community, and find out for yourself. Our next game will be Warhammer Dark Omen. It is a real-time tactics game as opposed to a real-time strategy, and received negative views back in the day because it was deemed too difficult. It's another game with sound design done by Mark Knight, and one I can't wait to bring to you. As always, I'll see you in the next video.